The underestimated species. The crystalline spires of the Galactic Council chamber stretched toward the artificial sky, their surfaces reflecting the light of 1,000 worlds. Captain Elena Vasquez sat quietly in the small human section, her simple blue uniform looking plain among the elaborate ceremonial garments worn by other species representatives. Around her, beings from across the galaxy debated the defense of their civilizations with voices that carried the weight of millennia. Elena watched Ambassador Zethkar of the Corvani Empire gesture dismissively with his forearms. His scaled hide shimmered with bioluminescent patterns that marked his high rank among his people. "The threat assessment is clear," he declared, his voice resonating through the chamber's translation systems. "We face an enemy that has consumed 12 star systems in the Outer Rim. The Corvani Third Fleet will lead the defense, supported by Alterran dreadnoughts and Nexus battle groups." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the vast chamber. The assembled representatives nodded their various heads, clicked their mandibles, or flashed their chromatic skin in approval. Elena remained perfectly still, her expression neutral as she had been trained to appear for the past 30 years. Commander Thale of the Alterran Republic stood next, her tall, elegant form radiating the confidence of a species that had ruled space lanes for 3,000 years. "The Alterran fleet will contribute 200 ships of the line," she announced. "Our quantum torpedoes and plasma lances have never failed against any enemy." More approving sounds filled the chamber. Elena noticed how the other species looked at each other with respect and recognition. They had fought together before. They understood each other's capabilities. They had histories written in the stars themselves. Then Ambassador Zethkar's 4 eyes turned toward the human section. "And what of the humans?" he asked, his tone carrying just enough politeness to avoid direct insult. "I assume Earth will contribute what vessels it can spare from its mining operations?" Soft laughter echoed through parts of the chamber. Elena had heard this joke countless times over the past 3 decades. To the galaxy, humans were newcomers, who had stumbled into space barely 2 centuries ago. They saw human ships as slow, bulky cargo haulers and asteroid miners. They saw human technology as primitive and inefficient. They saw humanity as children playing at being spacefaring. Elena stood slowly, her movements deliberate and measured. She was a small woman by human standards, but she carried herself with quiet dignity. "The human fleet stands ready to serve as needed," she said simply. "We have 47 vessels available for defensive operations." The number was met with polite but dismissive nods. 47 ships seemed pathetic compared to the thousands that other species could field. What the galaxy didn't know was that those 47 ships were entirely real, entirely functional, and entirely visible to anyone who cared to scan human space. They were also entirely unimportant to humanity's actual military capabilities. Ambassador Zethkar's bioluminescent patterns shifted to show what Elena had learned to recognize as condescension. "We appreciate the gesture, Captain Vasquez. Perhaps your vessels could assist with supply runs and evacuating civilian populations. Leave the actual fighting to those with more experience." Elena nodded graciously. "As you wish, Ambassador." She sat back down, noting how the conversation immediately moved on to more important matters. None of the other species bothered to ask about human military doctrine, weapon systems, or strategic capabilities. They already knew everything they needed to know about humanity's place in the galactic hierarchy. What they didn't know was that 800 light-years away, Dr. Marcus Chen was making final adjustments to weapon systems that could crack moons in half. The Kepler research station hung in the shadow of a brown dwarf star, officially cataloged as a xenobiology laboratory, studying extremophile organisms. The station's modest size and unremarkable energy signature had kept it off the galaxy's attention for 43 years. No alien surveyor had ever bothered to look closely at what appeared to be a small scientific outpost in an empty system. Dr. Chen floated in the zero-gravity workshop, his weathered hands making precise adjustments to a control interface that most aliens would have dismissed as primitive human technology. The interface looked simple because it was designed to look simple. Underneath its basic appearance lay quantum processing systems that could coordinate the movement of objects the size of small planets. Status Report, Section 7. Chen spoke. Into his headset. Gravitational anchor systems are showing green across all boards, came the reply from engineer Patricia Reeves. We're holding steady at 0.73% of standard gravity. The camouflage field is operating within normal parameters. Chen smiled as he looked through the workshop's transparent aluminum window. Outside, what appeared to be empty, space actually contained something that would have redefined every military textbook in the galaxy. The object was so large that even from his position inside it, Chen could barely see its curvature. To anyone scanning the system, it would register as a small asteroid field with unusual but not impossible mineral compositions. The truth was somewhat different. Dr. Chen, called out Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster from the communication station. We're receiving a priority transmission from Admiral Knox. She's requesting an immediate status update on all Leviathan units. Chen pushed off from the workbench and glided toward the communication console. Admiral Sarah Knox appeared on the screen, her short gray hair and intense eyes showing the strain of coordinating humanity's most complex military operation. Behind her, Chen could see the bridge of the flagship Prometheus, humanity's mobile command center disguised as a simple exploration vessel. Marcus, Admiral Knox said without preamble. I need to know if we can accelerate the timeline. The situation in the outer rim is deteriorating faster than our projections indicated. Chen pulled up a holographic display showing the construction status of 12 massive objects scattered across human space. Each object was the size of a small moon, bristling with weapon systems that no alien species had ever imagined. The primary units are at 94% completion, he reported. Weapon systems are fully operational, but we're still calibrating the final targeting arrays. How long do you need? Knox asked. Give me 48 hours for the calibration sequences, Chen replied. After that, we'll be ready to show the galaxy what humans have really been building for the past century. Admiral Knox nodded grimly. 48 hours it is. The Harvester Collective has been identified as the threat in the outer rim. Our deep space monitors indicate they're not just invading, they're consuming entire star systems, converting all matter into more ships. Chen felt a chill despite the controlled environment of the station. The Harvester Collective was exactly the kind of threat that Project Leviathan had been designed to counter. An enemy that grew stronger with every victory, that learned from every battle, that could adapt to any conventional weapon system. Are we maintaining the deception? Chen asked. Elena is doing her job perfectly, Knox confirmed. The Galactic Council still thinks we're a minor species with a handful of cargo ships. They're planning their defense without any consideration for human capabilities. When the time comes, we'll have complete tactical surprise. The communication ended, leaving Chen alone with his thoughts. He looked back through the window at the construction crews working on the final weapons installations. Thousands of humans labored in secret, building weapons that could reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. They had been patient for decades, allowing other species to dismiss them while they prepared for threats that conventional fleets could never handle. The Leviathan project had begun as a simple question. What if humanity's perceived weakness was actually its greatest strength? What if being underestimated was the ultimate strategic advantage? The galaxy expected humans to build small, efficient ships because that's what primitive species did. No one imagined that humans might be capable of constructing mobile battle stations the size of worlds. Dr. Chen activated his personal communication device and opened a channel to the other Leviathan stations. One by one, the commanders reported in. Captain Rodriguez from Leviathan Actual, hidden in the Vega system. Commander Park from Iron Mountain, concealed in an asteroid belt near Proxima Centauri. Captain Williams from Deep Strike, positioned in the space between galaxies where no one would ever think to look. Each station controlled a weapon system beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Each was commanded by officers who had spent their entire careers preparing for this moment. Each was ready to reveal that humanity had never been the weak, primitive species that everyone believed. Back in the Galactic Council chamber, Elena received a discreet message on her communication pad. The text was simple. Garden tools are ready for harvest season. She allowed herself the smallest of smiles before returning her attention to the debate raging around her. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity had been playing a very different game all along. The question was whether they had prepared well enough to survive what was coming from the dark spaces between the stars. The Harvester Collective had consumed civilizations that had ruled the galaxy for millennia. Soon, they would discover what happened when they tried to harvest a species that had been quietly building planet killers in the shadows. The awakening giants, the emergency klaxons throughout the Galactic Council station pierced the artificial atmosphere as reports flooded in from the Outer Rim territories. Elena Vasquez stood in the human observation deck, watching the main tactical display show system after system winking out of existence. Red markers spread across the galactic map like a plague, each one representing billions of lives lost to the advancing Harvester Collective. Commander Thale of the Alteran Republic burst into the council chamber, her usual composure shattered. "The Zerian defense fleet is gone," she announced, her voice carrying across the stunned silence. 47 ships of the line destroyed in 16 minutes. The enemy adapted to our quantum torpedoes after the first volley. Ambassador Zethkar's bioluminescent patterns flickered in distress. "How is this possible? The Zerian fleet was the most advanced in the Outer Rim. Their shields could withstand Nova-level energy bursts." Elena watched the tactical display update in real time. The Harvester Collective wasn't just destroying fleets. They were learning from every engagement. Their ships absorbed weapon impacts, analyzed the energy signatures, and immediately developed countermeasures. Each victory made them stronger. Each battle taught them how to defeat the next opponent more efficiently. "Madam Ambassador," Elena said quietly, stepping forward. "With respect, the human delegation requests permission to coordinate with our fleet elements." Zethkar turned his 4 eyes toward her, patterns of frustrated anger rippling across his scaled hide. "Captain Vasquez, this is not the time for meaningless gestures. Your 47 cargo ships will be vaporized the moment they enter combat range." Elena maintained her calm expression. "Nevertheless, Ambassador, we would like to contribute what we can." The dismissal was swift and predictable. Elena returned to her position, activated her discreet communication device, and sent a single, coded message. "Harvest season begins now." 800 light-years away, Dr. Marcus Chen received the authorization signal he had been waiting for his entire career. Around him, the Kepler research station hummed with activity as systems that had been dormant for decades began powering up. Through the transparent aluminum windows, construction scaffolding retracted from the hull of what the galaxy had never realized was there. "All stations report ready," announced Engineer Patricia Reeves from her position at the primary control console. "Gravitational anchors are disengaging. Camouflage field generators are shutting down." Chen felt the subtle vibration through the deck plates as the massive object began to move under its own power. What had appeared to be a small asteroid field for 43 years was revealing itself as something that redefined the concept of military engineering. The Leviathan Kepler was coming online. Communications, open channels to all other Leviathan units, Chen ordered. "It's time to show the galaxy what humans have really been building." Admiral Sarah Knox stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, watching her tactical display populate with icons that represented the most sophisticated military operation in human history. One by one, the Leviathan battle stations reported their status. Each was a mobile fortress the size of a small moon. Each carried weapons that could crack planets, and each had been hidden in plain sight for decades. "Leviathan Actual reporting ready for combat operations," came Captain Rodriguez's voice from the Vega system. "All primary weapon systems are green. Gravitational manipulation drives are at full power." "Iron Mountain, ready and waiting," reported Commander Park from the Proxima Centauri region. "Quantum disruption cannons are charged and locked on target." "Deep strike, positioned and ready," announced Captain Williams from the intergalactic void. "Temporal displacement weapons are primed for first strike." Knox allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. 12 Leviathan battle stations, each more powerful than entire alien fleets, were about to reveal themselves to a galaxy that had thought humans were harmless miners and cargo haulers. The deception had taken a century to perfect, but it was about to pay off in ways that would reshape the balance of power among the stars. "All units, this is Admiral Knox," she announced across the fleet communication channels. "Execute Operation Revelation. Show them what Earth's children have learned to build." The first Leviathan to reveal itself was Iron Mountain, hidden in the asteroid belt near Proxima Centauri. Commander Park had positioned his battle station to appear as nothing more than a large metallic asteroid, unremarkable among the thousands of similar objects drifting through space. When the camouflage field generators shut down, the Harvester Collective scouts in the system suddenly found themselves facing something that shouldn't exist. Iron Mountain was a sphere of dark metal 12 kilometers in diameter, its surface covered with weapon ports that looked like craters on a miniature moon. When its gravitational drives activated, the artificial gravity field was so intense that it bent light around the battle station, creating a visual distortion that made it appear to be in 6 places at once. The Harvester Scouts, sleek vessels of living metal that had adapted to every weapon system in the galaxy, immediately began scanning the new threat. Their sensors returned impossible readings. The object was too large to be a ship, too sophisticated to be a space station, and too heavily armed to be anything in their vast database of galactic military assets. Commander Park opened fire with weapons that the Harvester Collective had never encountered. The quantum disruption cannons didn't simply destroy enemy ships. They erased them from existence by severing the quantum bonds that held matter together. 3 Harvester vessels simply ceased to exist, their constituent atoms scattered across several dimensions simultaneously. The remaining scouts attempted to adapt, but there was nothing to adapt to. The quantum disruption effect was based on fundamental forces of reality itself. No amount of technological evolution could defend against weapons that attacked the basic structure of existence. "This is Iron Mountain," Commander Park reported to Admiral Knox. "Harvester scouts in the Proxima system have been eliminated. No survivors to report our capabilities." Similar reports came in from across human space as the Leviathan battle stations revealed themselves. Each engagement was swift and decisive. The Harvester Collective, accustomed to learning from every battle, found themselves facing weapons that operated on principles they had never encountered. Their adaptive capabilities were useless against technologies that no known species had ever developed. Back in the Galactic Council chamber, the tactical displays began showing something impossible. The advance of the Harvester Collective had suddenly stopped. More than stopped, it was reversing. Systems that had been overrun were suddenly showing signs of massive energy discharges. The red markers on the galactic map began winking out as something destroyed the Harvester fleets from within. "What is happening?" demanded Ambassador Zethkar, his bioluminescent patterns flickering in confusion. "The Harvester ships are being destroyed, but our fleets are nowhere near those systems." Elena Vasquez stood calmly in the human section, her communication device showing updates from across the galaxy. "Madam Ambassador," she said, her voice carrying across the chamber, "I believe the human fleet is engaging the enemy." The chamber fell silent. Commander Thale turned to stare at Elena with disbelief. "Captain Vasquez, your ships are cargo haulers. They couldn't possibly—" "You're quite right, Commander," Elena interrupted with a slight smile. "Our cargo ships couldn't possibly handle this threat. Fortunately, we brought different ships." Dr. Chen watched from the bridge of Leviathan Kepler as the battle station's primary weapons engaged a harvester formation in the Arcturus system. The temporal displacement cannons fired bursts of chrono-distorted energy that aged enemy ships millions of years in microseconds. The harvester vessels, accustomed to adapting to conventional weapons, found themselves crumbling to dust as their molecular structure experienced the equivalent of geological time in seconds. "Target eliminated," reported the weapons officer. "The harvester formation has been neutralized." Chen nodded, but his attention was focused on the larger tactical picture. The Leviathan battle stations were systematically destroying harvester fleets across the galaxy, but the real test was yet to come. Intelligence reports indicated that the collective operated a primary command structure, a central intelligence that coordinated all their operations. That intelligence was approaching the core systems of the galaxy in a vessel that dwarfed even the Leviathan battle stations. Dr. Chen, came Admiral Knox's voice over the communication channel. Long-range sensors have detected the Harvester, Prime. It's heading directly for the Galactic Council Station. Estimated arrival time is 6 hours. Chen felt a chill despite the controlled environment of the bridge. The Harvester Prime was the collective consciousness of the entire enemy fleet, housed in a vessel the size of a small planet. It had consumed the knowledge and technology of dozens of civilizations, and it was coming to add the galaxy's core worlds to its collection. "Admiral," Chen replied, "I recommend we gather all available Leviathan units at the Council Station. This is what we've been preparing for." The next few hours passed in a blur of coordination and preparation. The 12 Leviathan battle stations converged on the Galactic Council Station, revealing themselves to the galaxy's leadership for the first time. The reaction was everything Elena had expected and more. Ambassador Zethkar's bioluminescent patterns had gone completely dark, a sign of utter shock among his species. These are your mining ships?" he whispered, staring at the tactical display showing vessels the size of small moons. Elena finally allowed herself a genuine smile. "No, Ambassador. These are our mining ships." She gestured to the 47 small vessels that had been visible all along. "These," she indicated the Leviathan battle stations, "are our warships." Commander Thale's elegant composure had completely collapsed. "How long have you been building these planet killers?" "About a century," Elena replied casually. "We found that being underestimated was an excellent strategic advantage. While you were dismissing us as primitive cargo haulers, we were quietly building the most advanced military force in the galaxy." The revelation sent shockwaves through the assembled representatives. Species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia suddenly realized they had been living next to a military superpower they had never recognized. The humans, dismissed as newcomers and weaklings, had been playing a game of deception that made all their previous conflicts seem like children's arguments. But there was no time for recriminations. The Harvester Prime was approaching, and even the combined might of the Leviathan battle stations would be tested against an enemy that had consumed civilizations older than any in the current galaxy. Admiral Knox's voice carried across all channels. "All units, prepare for final engagement. Everything we've built, everything we've planned comes down to the next few hours. Show them what happens when someone threatens humanity's galaxy." The battle for the survival of galactic civilization was about to begin, and the species that everyone had dismissed as harmless miners were humanity's last hope for victory.